We're going to look at 4 different methods for comparing fractions. The first method we're going to look at is comparing fractions that have common denominators. So when denominators are the same number, we're going to look at the numerators, the top number of the fraction. Whichever fraction has the bigger number, that will be our larger fraction. So if I'm looking at 3/5 and 2/5, and if I was to compare the fractions, looking at the numerators, I can tell that 3 is bigger than 2, so that is my bigger fraction. 3/5 is the bigger fraction. So now I have 2 fractions, and their denominators are different. I can convert 3/5 into an equivalent fraction, 6/10. And now I can compare 6/10, 3/10. So which number is bigger, 6/10 or 3/10? Again, I look at my numerators, and I know that 6 is the bigger number. So 6/10 is bigger than 3/10. That also means that 3/5 is the bigger fraction. 3/5 is larger than 3/10. The next method I'm going to look at is looking at fractions whose numerators, the top number, is the same. When numerators are the same, the fraction with the smaller denominator will be the larger fraction. So if I'm looking at these three choices, 3/4, 3/5, and 3/10, by looking at the denominators, the smaller numbers, I can compare my fractions. 4 is the smallest number of this group, so this would be the fraction whose pieces are the biggest. That means that 3/4 will be the larger fraction. 5 is the number between 4 and 10, so that is the middle fraction. So this is if I do it this way. If I do it this way, the order from smallest to largest. So small to large. Where 3/4 is my biggest fraction and 3/10 is my smallest fraction. Another way to compare fractions is to convert the fraction into a decimal. By looking at the decimal number, I can decide how big my fraction is. So let's take 3/10 and bring it over to here. I can compare these two numbers by converting them into decimals. Well, how can I convert them into decimals? There's multiple ways to do that. The 2 easiest ways is to convert your fraction into a fraction whose denominator is 10, 100, or 1,000. And I use 10, 100, or 1,000 because these numbers correspond to place value. Okay, the 10th place, 100th place, 1,000th place. Those are my decimal places. So if I have a fraction with those denominators, I can easily convert it into a decimal. If I was to say 3/10, if I was to say that name or that fraction, 3/10, I can easily see that this fraction corresponds to the decimal 3/10. They are the same. By saying the fraction name properly, by saying the decimal name properly using place value, I can easily see the relationship between these two numbers. 3/10, the fraction, 3/10, the decimal. The other way to convert a fraction to a decimal is to divide numerator divided by denominator. Numerator divided by denominator. 5 divided by 6. where your 5 goes inside your house and your 6 goes outside your house. Using your division skills, you're going to make your 5 a larger number by adding a decimal and zeros at the end. And you're going to do your division. 6 goes into 50. It goes in, let's see, 6 times 5 is 30, times 6 is 36, times 7 is 42, times 8 is 48. And you subtract, and you're going to get 20. Bring down your 0. 6 goes into 20 twice, 3 times, 18. And you get a remainder of 2. This is going to be a repeating decimal because I'm going to keep getting a remainder of 2. So 5/6 as a decimal is 8.3 with the 3 repeating. So looking at the two numbers, I've got 3/10, which is 0.3, and I've got 5/6, which is 0.83. So the larger number on this page is 5/6 because it has a larger decimal. The last way to compare decimals is to use something called the butterfly method, where we cross multiply. We have two fractions, 5/7 and 6/11. We cross multiply 5 times 11, that's 55. I will write 55 up above this fraction. We cross multiply 6 times 7, that's 42. That gets written above this fraction. Now we compare the products. 55 is bigger than 42, so 5/7 is the bigger fraction. So there are 4 ways that we can compare fractions. We can compare the numerators if our denominators are the same number. We can compare our denominators if the numerators are the same number. We can make the fractions into decimals, and we can compare them using the butterfly method. All 4 of these methods will work. It all depends on the fractions you are looking at.